I don't like it when it's like, she said this, he said this, and they didn't, and it's been misconstrued, and then everyone believes it, and then that type of stuff. Let's not run anything like that. Let's get everyone's unfiltered opinions on what they actually think about the stuff so that we can judge them on it. Podcasts, especially long form, are going to help with that. The only thing I worry about is the editorial power within that. But that aside, generally speaking, I would say good thing, ? Because it also brings in that divisive thing where it's like, oh, you went on the podcast, oh, look at this crazy thing you said, oh, divisive, my team is better. I can't help you guys, sorry. Every week, Sean brings me the weekly podcasting news, what's happening in the industry. Sean, what have you got for me today?
First up, we've got Sounds Profitable, one of the top resources for insights into podcasting trends and technology. It recently published a new article exploring how video content plays the role in podcast discovery. One of the things that they found was that video, especially YouTube, which we've talked about this a lot, it plays a huge role in podcast discoverability. The interesting thing they found was that it actually plays a huge role in discoverability for people who prefer to listen to audio-only podcasts. There's a huge opportunity for audio-only podcasts to create some form of video content to put up on YouTube, even if their primary focus is on audio.
Absolutely. That's something we've been saying for a while as well. Yes, your audio that's where you live. That's where you build the relationship with the listeners. It's where you nurture. The fact is, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, stuff like that, it's not that good for searchability and discoverability. But YouTube, one of the best. So that doesn't surprise me. I also love when something that we've been saying for a while gets reflected in research. So
even if you're assuming that people are going to only listen to your podcast, this isn't something you can afford to ignore.
It makes sense. I was talking to a guy this morning, actually. There was a guy, he's in podcasting, he's an editor. He was on LinkedIn asking some people some things. And I said, let's have a phone call because I like to help people. And he says he talks people out of doing video. Strange business practice, but that's fine. He believes that video podcasts are not podcasts. They are video content. And to an extent, I agree with them, but to a larger extent, I don't care. That's just what you call it. That's like saying, let's not do show notes, because that's written form. What are you doing? We're doing a podcast. No, come on. There's other reasons not to do show notes, of course. No, it's an accompanying piece. Would you not have a marketing effort to the thing that you're creating? Maybe see the video as a marketing effort to get people into the audio, which brings me on to my next point with what he was talking about. That's video content. That's a YouTube video. That's not a podcast. I understand where he's coming from there, because if I'm listening to two people talk like this, you can do it on audio platform and it's very good at that because that's all you're getting. If you're looking at the video, all you're seeing is my stupid face. You don't need to see my stupid face. You just need to hear my stupid voice. So what are you getting from this? Practically nothing compared to the audio version, right? You're still getting all the information. Yes, we have the little bar down in the bottom left that says, oh, we got this long until that. I don't know why we do that. That actually hurts for retention, but it's fine. We ain't going to watch long form. However, having said that, if you were to do it properly is potentially the wrong word, but if you were to do it a different way and think of it as a different medium, then that would, in my opinion, be the right thing to do. Why are we doing video? Two reasons. Number one, we're seeing it as discoverability because YouTube is amazing for that. You don't need to put a lot of effort into that. Just record it and stick it on there. Discoverability, lovely stuff. Number two, if you actually want to grow on YouTube or do anything like that, right? Then you're looking, how is this different to the audio? I'm about to say all the things that we don't do. We're only on the third episode. Give us a break. If you reference a study and it's got a graph on, stick the graph up. I want to see that graph, man. Those are the things I can't get with audio that I can with video. It enhances the experience and it's designed to go on there. Those are the two reasons to do video. What do you think?
There is something to be said, like there are advantages to an audio only show, and video is just, it's a lot more work. If you're doing it just for the sake of doing it and thinking about those reasons, you're probably putting in a lot more effort than you need to. But if you do have a good reason and you're leaning into that reasoning, you could see a huge improvement by doing video intentionally.
Intentionally is the right word there because yes, YouTube has the RSS feature where you can have your audio episode go there and it's got a picture of your cover art on the thing. No one's clicking that. If it's a nice title and stuff like that, people might find it for SEO, but no one's clicking on that. But if you were to spend an extra 20 minutes and do it intentionally, then it's going to actually start helping you. What do I mean by that? Actually do a video of the audio thing. You can have YouTube do that for you and then do all that stuff, right? But then utilize that with a new thumbnail, background of the video. Again, this may take a little bit more time. Change the background of the video just to say, this is an audio episode of this. Go here to find it. Do you know what I mean? Because as soon as I click on something, I realize it's an audio thing on YouTube, unless it's something I really want to listen to, or I'm going to sleep. I ain't listening to it. I'm clicking off. I'm on YouTube for a reason. But if it's something that I think is interesting and it says this is an audio podcast, then I'm going to go there. Intentionality, you bang on, is the exact right word there.
This segues perfect into the next topic. One of those ways of aiding discoverability is through YouTube Shorts or doing clips on YouTube. One of the things that YouTube recently just announced was YouTube Shorts can now be up to 3 minutes long, which I believe puts them at the same time as Instagram Reels. Most people are probably cross-promoting using the same content on both of those platforms.
The key thing there for me is up to. It doesn't mean you have to do 3 minutes. Sometimes it depends on finish a sentence. The thing that you're creating, you shouldn't be like, we're going to create a 3-minute thing, and then let's try and find one. It's, here is a thing that needs to be there. Therefore, how long is the short based on this thing? It could be an quote. And then that quote is 8 seconds long, especially in shorts, especially in 2024, to keep someone's attention for 3 minutes. God damn, that's going to have to be a big thing. I'm trying to think of what's 3 minutes that can't be better in 8 seconds or like 20 seconds. And it's probably maybe an Alan Watts speech, something that's truly engaging you for that entire 3 minutes. The problem I can see potentially occurring from this is people are going to default to 3 minutes because it's like, up to this, I'll do that then. People should think of it as that's the new limit. You've got to think about the content first. Don't even think about the time. If it's over 3 minutes, and it has to be over 3 minutes, cut it down to 3. This is the thing. We did a How to Podcast episode yesterday, right? We were talking about what type of content we're doing and why and stuff like that. And we got into formats. Too many people go into it with, I want to do shorts. I want to do carousels on LinkedIn. Okay, great. That's not a thought that anyone should ever have. It's, I want the valuable content for my people, whether that goes towards your mission of educating them, whether that goes to your business/financial goals of bringing people into your ecosystem, whatever it may be, whether that goes to your authority goals of being an authority in the space, whatever that may be. What's the value that you want to give or receive, right? And whatever the best thing for that is, that's what it should be. If you figure out that actually it's a postcard through someone's letterbox, that's what you should be doing. This even goes to podcasts, man. Why are you doing a podcast? Is that the best way to achieve the value that you want to give, that you want to receive? If not, don't do a podcast. If it's a YouTube video, it goes back to the video stuff. If a YouTube video is much better at doing that, do that instead. If it's just an Instagram channel, it's just you in bikinis, and that helps give value to people, a strange type of value, but we'll go with it, then do that. You don't need a microphone in front of your face. You don't need a blue Yeti on your table. So I said I wasn't going to get angry this episode, but it's happened.
I got to put this out there. It's pretty ironic that you talk about why would you do something in 3 minutes when it could be 8 seconds and then you go on like a 5-minute rant. But,
Oh, man. So right.
We're going to have a hard time cutting some shorts out of this. I did want to say, I totally agree with you. Just because they can be 3 minutes long does not mean that they need to. But I do love that this is happening because 1 minute can be really restricted. I was putting together a short for one of our clients, obviously trying to keep it under a minute. What I ended up with was like 1 minute and 5 seconds. And I was like, I might be able to cut those 5 seconds down, but it's impacting the pace of the clip. 3 minutes is great. I still only want this to be as long as it needs to be, but at least I don't have to throw away things just because they're a few seconds longer.
Yeah, as long as it's seen in that type of way, I'm a fan. I like restriction. People always say, what length should my podcast episode be? We always used to say, the classic line, I don't think we invented it. I stole it from somewhere 8 years ago or something. A podcast is never too long, only too boring, and a podcast is never too short, only too irrelevant. However, there are benefits to saying our podcast will be no more than 30 minutes. Because if we do that, now we've got to shove all this value into that thing. That restriction, that structure brings freedom in that structure. Do I sound fascist here? I don't, do I? I do a bit. It's okay. That type of structure helps with creativity. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It can go the other way too. I think some of these like long form podcasts, part of that restriction is like, we're just going to talk as long as we possibly can. Sometimes the best stuff comes out 2 hours into an interview. It's directly tied to the structure of the podcast. Like you get to go really deep and spend a lot of time there. Whereas, yeah, if you're trying to get in under 30 minutes, you're giving yourself a different type of limitation.
Yeah, and it all comes down to the goal as well. If the goal is something that someone's going to listen to while they're working in a factory and it's a 3-hour-long conversation that goes in all these different directions, then you don't necessarily need that restriction. There comes a point where it's diminishing returns. We're probably not going to talk about anything revelatory after 3 hours. I enjoy restriction. If this is just redressing the balance, then that's fine. I will allow it.
Let's move on to our next one. We missed this news in Last Week in Podcasting. Google's Notebook LM launched. It's like their AI service for note-taking. They released an update where basically it creates an AI podcast for you to listen to based on whatever sources you upload. Not necessarily a tool for people to make podcasts to distribute, but it's about making like a personalized podcast for yourself to listen to.
So what would this look like? How could I use this and what would it look and sound like?
Let's say, rather than putting on a podcast ourselves, like Last Week in Podcasting, if you didn't want me reporting the news to you every week, you could just put all these news articles in there and have two people have a discussion and listen to it.
It prompts the question in me, why do we choose to listen to podcasts to get information sometimes? I think the reason is because it's in a wrapper of entertainment and enjoyment. We always talk about the Trojan horse. It's one of our philosophies. You're using the Trojan horse of entertainment to deliver that value. That is what podcasts is. I want to see how entertaining that conversation will be. Oh man, this is an interesting one. If I just want the information, I can just read it or have something talk at me. I guess it's making it more palatable.
Yeah, this is definitely something I would need to experience. I get the impression it's not necessarily going to replace podcasts in any way, but what it shows to me is that people obviously get a lot of value out of getting information from podcasts. Some of that is because of trusting the people that are presenting that news. It's about the personalities, but some of it's just like people have gotten used to learning things through listening to other people talk about it. If you've become accustomed to just learning about new topics through podcasts, but you can't find a podcast based on a topic you want to learn more about, you can use this to create your own podcast and listen to it passively and learn in the way that you prefer to learn.
Yeah, I like that. There obviously will be some people that will jump on the, oh no, they're trying to make this the future of they're not. I think you're right in the way you say it. It's not necessarily the way I'd choose to learn. I'm one of those annoying people that think people talk too slowly. Simultaneously, I talk too fast. I find that people don't get to the point very often. I realize the irony, of course. For me, it wouldn't be the best. Because I'm like, just give me the info. I'll open up ChatGPT, open up the conversation thing and go, all right, love, if I were to do this and invest in that and then take that out of there, let's say 10%, and I'm talking really normal, and then do that, would that be a good strategy? The good thing is that when she talks, she goes, that's a good question. I think that, but then on the other side of things, the thing that I don't like about AI in general and the answers that it gives is you say, all right, what's 12 times 4? And then it goes, good question. So it's a very interesting calculation, right? So how we would work this out, give me the answer. You've been in meetings with me. This is how I am. God, this is a tangent. I could see it working for a lot of people on a personal level. I'm not at all worried, like anyone should also not be worried that it's going to take over podcasting or anything like that. If you listening or watching this, if anyone is saying, this is going to take over oh no, what's happening to the future? But what does this look like ignore it all. Fine.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. Again, I think it speaks more to people like learning through podcasts. People like listening to podcasts. Don't let AI do it first. People would rather hear like a real person doing that than an AI.
Yeah, I would say so.
All right, last up on here, and this is a new style topic for us. There's been a lot of discussion this year about how heavily the U.S. presidential campaign has been leaning into podcasting as part of their political campaigning strategy. I don't want to get too much into the politics, but more about like, why is this happening and what does it mean? I'm sure most people, even if you're not in the U.S., know that the two presidential candidates in the U.S., Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, both have been appearing on some of the biggest podcasts in the world. Both of them are expected to show up on Joe Rogan, and Kamala has been on Call Her Daddy, and Trump has been on shows like Theo Vaughn and Lex Friedman. These are big personalities. They're trying to reach as big of an audience as they can. What this is showing is that they believe these podcasts are giving them as much of an audience as traditional news. I think that's pretty huge.
I'm not going to go into politics, mainly because I don't know anything about it, especially in your country. But the striking thing that I see there, it's just, I'm going to go talk to my echo chamber, which is obviously going to happen. In the motherland, our news is the news, right? In the news in the States, it's like, here's the conservative news for all your conservative needs. And here's your, what's the other one? Liberal news for all of your liberal needs. Those guys are wrong. We're so right, though. And then just describe the US in 5 seconds. It's definitely what I'd expect to see. One thing I do really like about it, and I know we shouldn't be talking about it, is something that Rogan said years ago, which is when they go on I don't know any morning shows, on the morning news shows in the States, but when they go on one of the morning shows, they have 15 seconds to say their piece and then have that edited, and then that's who they are now. But a 3-hour podcast, now you can really tell what they think about a thing, who they are, how they are, all that type of stuff. I can't fix US politics, but it would be nice for it not to be, I'll go on this place where my echo chamber is and you go on the place where your echo chamber is. Strengthen the divide. You're either blue team or red team. Oh, they actually are blue and red, aren't they? You're either an elephant or what's the other one?
Donkey.
Donkey, really? Oh, okay. Let's say it like this. Probably a bad thing for the future of a country to greaten the divide. However, probably good for having people's actual opinions out there and not misrepresented. I think that's cool. If anyone, by the way, is trying to figure out which side of the coin I am on, I don't use that currency, so you won't.
There's something interesting with podcasts where they're speaking to audiences that aren't necessarily segmented by their political affiliation. There are times where things can have certain leanings. Every single person is not going to be 100% aligned with one political view. If you're trying to dig in and get like honest answers, which you should be, you're going to ask them the questions that you are genuinely curious to hear how they would answer them. So they're able to address specific parts of their philosophies to an audience that they know cares about certain things, without being necessarily in that echo chamber.
I had a meeting with a guy in London who his plan was, and potentially still is, to run for Prime Minister. Everyone listening, we never had this conversation. His plan was to create a podcast to give his views on everything so that he had a repository of his views, so that when he does run, people don't have to believe the tabloids. They can say, no, he can say, look, this is what I believe. It's right here. It brings more of what they're saying, their thoughts are on things, onto the matter. And I guess it could potentially combat, don't say fake news, but that type of thing, where it's like, he thinks, she thinks that this is going to happen. And then they can go on a podcast and go, no, I don't. And I love that. Again, I'm trying to fix America. It's not going to happen. It makes things fairer. I want everyone to believe the thing that's true. Let's get everyone's unfiltered opinions on what they actually think about the stuff so that we can judge them on it. If it's the person that's going to run the country, then we can judge them on what they think about certain things. And podcasts, especially long form, are going to help with that. The only thing I worry about is the editorial power within that. But that aside, generally speaking, I would say good thing? ? Because it also brings in that divisive thing where it's like, oh, you went on the podcast, oh, look at this crazy thing you said, oh, divisive, my team is better. I can't help you guys, sorry.
Yeah, no, we're a lost cause. It's okay.
Hey, so are we. It's all good. Oh, I say we. I live in Brazil. In fact, yeah, definitely.
People in the United States get sick of election season. It happens every time. It's just like, when is this over? When can we stop seeing ads about this crap? It inevitably happens. But I do think that for people that are interested in it, for people that are on the fence, people that want to learn more about what these people think, yeah, getting into longer conversations where it's a little bit more casual is a good thing. It is. And the nice thing about a podcast rather than a commercial is like you can choose to just turn it off. You don't have to listen to that episode if you don't want to.
Okay, that about does us, right?
That's all I have for this week.
Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. Do I have a sign off? I really need a sign off.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
I'm never going to say that.